No, I'm not reviewing this movie with a business suit. If I was, then to be honest, I probably wouldn't have used the suit in the thumbnail. That's just the one everyone seems to be wearing at movie theaters. I'm not going to talk about the meme going on TikTok and the terrible movie theater experiences people are having with this movie. And if you guys ended up having these experiences, I'm deeply sorry. But back on topic. I knew this movie was gonna blow up at the box office, and not surprisingly, it did. This movie, like the first, is already set to break records worldwide. This will probably end up being the biggest animated movie of the year, and it's not gonna be close. And obviously, it's because the Despicable Me franchise is the perfect example of a mainstream property appealing to the lowest common denominator. So today, we're gonna be diving into Minions 2 Rise of Gru and see if this sequel is better or worse than the original. So, let's get into the review. The Minions need no introduction. They are quite literally the biggest global phenomenon to walk the face of the earth and grace movie screens all over the world. We all know they began as some basic comic relief characters in Despicable Me. Soon enough, these characters would go on to become the main mascots for Illumination Entertainment, an animation company owned by NBC Universal, now known as Comcast. Universal would find success with this animation studio, as thanks to Despicable Me, Illumination officially became the head animation studio for the company. They would also go on to create films such as Secret Life of Pets and Sing, which would later get sequels. They would also turn Despicable Me into a full-length franchise, with the Minions receiving a film of their own, in which I enjoyed, even if the movie felt pretty empty deep down inside. At least the movie did one set up an origin story for Gru, since the Minions kind of already had their origin story in the first movie, even if it didn't make sense. Seriously, the first Minions movie is such a guilty pleasure, I don't want to think about it. Also, spoilers for this movie if you haven't seen it already. This movie is about Gru's origin story. How he met every character in the franchise before Margot, Edith, and Agnes. It's about Gru trying to audition for his favorite villain group after they kick out his favorite villain, Wild Knuckles, who actually ends up becoming a mentor for Gru on how to be a villain. He also ends up as one of my favorite characters in this movie. He does start off as a typical antagonist for Despicable Me, but he actually later becomes a mentor for Gru and sets him up to become the world's greatest supervillain known to mankind. And unlike in the first movie where the Minions didn't really have a reason to be in the movie in the first place, as the plot kind of dragged on with them, here they actually have a reason to be in the movie. Gru gets kidnapped and almost killed by the Vicious Six, and the minions have to go save him and retrieve the Zodiac, which is the movie's MacGuffin. After Gru stole it from the Vicious Six, proved that he is truly a villain that can compete with them. And then, at the end of the climax of the movie, Gru gets the gang arrested and proves that Kid can beat a group of unstoppable villains. Despite the fact that Kevin, Stuart, Bob, Otto, and Wild Knuckles all had to help him out because he almost captured and torn apart. I honestly thought this movie was just gonna be average, like the franchise itself. But honestly, I enjoyed this movie a whole lot. The cameos in the movie really shine as we get to see a young Dr. Nefario, a Scarlet Overkill lunchbox, which is hilarious, Vector's father, and the Bank of Evil, which we saw in the first movie, and the AVL, plus the old boss of the group, which we saw in the second and third movie of the Despicable Me franchise. And they all made sense too outside of fan service. But unfortunately, I still have complaints about the movie. The 5 other members of the Vicious Six weren't memorable antagonists. No joke, I completely forgot their names after I watched the movie. I'm not exaggerating when I say that. They're that unmemorable. And Otto was pretty annoying. I get that it was his character to drag on the plot. He wouldn't shut up for once in the movie except for his introduction, in which Gru makes him play the quiet game and he passes out after he couldn't breathe. In fact, Otto brings this movie down for me. Like, I get why he was meant to be as annoying as he was, but still, I just did not like him. He's just your typical fat character who would never shut up for 1 second and ends up screwing everything up, but you can't be mad at him for long. No. So then again, I don't hate Otto that badly. He does remind me of Cheese from Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends a little bit. And because of that, I can't hate him that much. Also, the Kung Fu scenes didn't really make much sense outside of the minions trying to save Gru. But if there's one thing this movie does great at, it's the animation. I think this movie is probably the best animated movie Illumination has ever made thus far, in terms of its animation. It's so vibrant and colorful, and moves so smoothly that it's a treat. Though I did see this movie in 3D, so that's just me. Also, the soundtrack slaps. This is the first original soundtrack for an Illumination movie, and it's a great one. It would take me too long to cover every song and artist on this album, so I highly recommend listening to it if you have not already. Overall, while this movie was way too overhyped thanks to TikTok, I do think some of the hype was warranted because this is probably one of the best Illumination films we've ever gotten in a while. Though, if you don't like the Despicable Me franchise, you're probably not going to enjoy this movie. But if you do, this is a pretty good movie worth your attention. I'll give it a 7 out of 10 though, considering that I still have my faults with this one like I do with the franchise as a whole. But this is still a fun movie worth checking out. Though, to be safe, wait for it on Peacock since watching it at a movie theater could be dangerous thanks to me. Anyways, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.